Welcome back to Heaven's Vault. In our deep dive, we are trying to figure out a way into the pit. This is the third pit that I couldn't get into when I first played through, and I think that we're going to be 2 of 3, because I heard from someone that you can in fact go down this pit. You just have to slide down an intact area, which I believe is that area right there in the middle of the screen. So we're on our way over there to give it a shot and see whether or not that's it. I am, of course, clicking, because sometimes this game hides things and doesn't reveal them quite as fast as you might think. And I've discovered a surprising number of artifacts and things just by clicking as I'm walking, which isn't real great design. So I think that this is the intact spot, but... oh, there it is, see it? No wonder I didn't see it the first time. So it's roughly 2 inches from the part where you scan the icons on the far side. So as you can see, the first time I came down, I was like here, and I looked across and I saw those icons, and I thought, oh well, that's what this part of the map is for. Kind of sneaky of them to put 2 things in one spot. Whee! That was almost an animation. Good job. All right. Are we gonna see the robot come down?
The robot was right. I felt as light as a feather.
I wonder why Like a Child wasn't voice acted. There are clearly some lines that didn't quite get to the script, to the table before the script was read. There were some lines that I skipped also that you didn't get to see in this playthrough that aren't read out even though they are announced. Let's go down and find the secrets. No reason to keep nattering on at random. Let's see what we can see. Neat. This has been a rough game to Let's Play for me because I have injured myself several times just before trying to play it every couple of days. So right now I have a new injury on my offhand. But it shouldn't interfere with my ability to click buttons. Let's see if we have the option to push him in. Aha, crystals. I guess there's not a huge reason to jump in there if we can just see more crystals. I'm not terribly surprised about the crystals because they were in the Sky Goddess and they were on Mersey, so we already knew that that there were crystals. Let's see whether or not he hoppers us back once we start to do this one more. So I wonder whether or not the iolite crystals have anything to do with sources, you know, sources of air or water. I am not on top of my game today, sorry. I hope I'm not making too many awful noises into the mic. we're chatting with the robot. I don't really feel like this is getting us anywhere, but I'm doing it out of a sense of duty. I don't think that the robot has anything to say that we don't already know, so... Now, the weird thing is that he hasn't actually asked us to hop her away and given me the response. We already have a couple of these crystals. I don't think we need to pick one up. Storing a gravity manipulating force. Why do you think that it stores one? So, this is a little bit fast and loose in terms of the things we're discussing. It's not clear. None of these concerns have really been established in the game quite now. But we're starting to suss out some of the things that the robot might fear or that we think the robot might fears. The problem is that because there's no lead up to it, a lot of it feels quite sudden. Like our sudden implication that Elbereth might invade Iox. That is an unusual thing for us to claim. So this is a sign as to where the story is going, which I think most of you probably played through already and know where the story is going. But the core idea here is that he's trying to tell us stuff about how this could be created, this whole universe could be created inside of the physics of the real universe. You know, we don't have a psychedelic, trippy universe so much as we have a science fiction, sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic universe. We'll find out more of the details there. We'll talk about it when it starts to come up. But for now, we have learned that there is something serious about the nature of this universe that we didn't understand yet. Things like gravity manipulation and changing gravity in one place and then you have to change it in an opposite direction somewhere else, stuff like this. And that could be a fascinating way to create a sci-fi setting because we don't really have any strong connection to it. In the same way that we don't have a strong connection to the robots being people, we don't have any strong connection to the idea of lessening the gravity, but we could have. And this might be, again, just my context. I might have done the context out of order. It might be that what would have been a good idea, it might be that some of the contexts are like, we tried to figure out how to run our ship and we couldn't figure it out, but then we realized, you know, it needs these crystals, or Roy put in a crystal, she just tried it out and it worked or something. Trying to track down what makes ships fly, because we have a ship, could have been fun. But even more than that, this isn't what makes ships fly. This is what used to make ships fly. So if we understood that over time the nature of space travel has changed, like all of these ancient tomes from the Empire era were full of weird talks about sailing. Like none of the sailing metaphors make any sense, and there's no talk about rivers, and we're like, what's going on? That could have led this to be much more interesting, but again, it didn't get set up right. Or it didn't get set up in time, depending on how we, define it. No acts. Well, if there's no acts, then that word cannot be what I think it is. Come on, move your butt. So I heard that you might be able to drag these if you grab up here, but it doesn't... Wait, is that all? Well, that's clearly wrong. What happened to this? I used to have water, didn't I? Where's the water? Is my mouse wheel broken? No? This is odd. Oh, there's something wrong here. I actually do not have the words I need because it's malfunctioning. You can see that... Ah! Okay, if I press page up, it moves, but for some reason it wouldn't move until then. Yeah, I know. I was trying to get it to work at all because for some reason the UI is even more broken today than it was before. Okay, so here we've got place, and then this is like question mark place. So what would it be? Beware. So right now, okay, so it looks like my scroll wheel is just plain busted. All right, so towards where waters, that's very close to welcome, and we, that would be meet, right? A lowering of gravity could easily make it so that you could fire water into the sky. An endless river of water from a source. Can you make a river? Is that really the question that you should be asking? Can you make one river? So, I don't know whether we've actually found everything on this moon, because we're not getting the message that we normally get, but that might be for some other reason, just because it's not a standard setup. But either way, we found enough on that moon. We found more than the first time I came. See, there's no reading here. It's quiet. The voice actress did not get to voice quite as many lines as you might have thought. All right, well, that's the first 10 minutes of the episode. I guess what we'll do is we'll try and track down a next destination for ourselves. I think it might be worth going back to Elbereth, but I don't remember whether we went to Elbereth before here or... No, wait, that wasn't... Ah, yes, that's right. We have been away from Elbereth for 2 time units, and we're about to be on our 3rd time unit. Now, the reason that matters is because... we have told Oroi to do some experiments on the crown, and I don't want to leave her without without any feedback for a very long time. She might blow it up or get captured or something. I like how we've decided that there is an upriver, even though it was such a minor hint. Alright, so I haven't done any resting at all, and I don't plan to. We're going to take a look at where we're going to go next. The first thing we're going to do before we go anywhere next is, of course, make a backup of our save. Episode 25. Maybe. Hello? There we are. So, where can we go? Our only options are... Renaki, Iox, Elbereth. There's no reason to go back to Renaki. There's no reason to go back to Iox. We can go to Elbereth, or we can go to this pre-Empire site. It's been a while since we went to Elbereth, but not not really that long. Let's go ahead and risk it and go over to this pre-Empire site. I think that going back to Elbereth now would be a little bit of a speedy. It would be a waste of time. So if we do go to Elbereth and find that that is a horrible catastrophe, oh well, we'll play into it. The rest of this episode is just going to be sailing and talking about context engines, so feel free to skip it if that's not what you're interested in. Because what I've been talking about a lot recently is the way that these contexts need to be synced up in order to get the right contexts active in time for having some kind of emotional control. For example, back on that moon where we discovered that crystals can make the gravities change, we would need to have some kind of reason why we would care. Now, from a human perspective, controlling gravity is interesting. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it. It's a really interesting fundamental force, and being able to do things with it is fundamentally just really cool. But none of the game itself has no effects that would be considered amazing if combined with that. So if we had known that sailing had radically changed, for example, that would be great. Or if we had some sort of inkling that there was something that could be accomplished with gravity. For example, if big chunks of Elbereth was falling away from the moon, and we needed to save it. The idea that we could manipulate gravity might be a tether we can hold on to, a saving grace that we might be able to figure out how to use to save our doomed towns. That would all be a really interesting approach, and it's a shame that that's not the case, but you have to wonder, is that not the case because I didn't find those, or is it not the case because those don't exist? Either way, you need to have the option to sync up your context, your storylines, so that you don't get so far down one storyline that the storyline that's supposed to emotionally support it doesn't come into play. And similarly, if you're going down the side that's emotionally supportive, you don't want to get so far along that the solution to your problem never happens. You need to do both. Let's just take a look here. This is pray, and this is pray without the words. So that would be... that's tough. Remember, sail. That's not out? Okay. Back, then. Sail by your... So this is time, and these, I don't really know. Sail. Breathe sail, freedom sail, remember sail, right sail. What's that? Sail back? No, because that's rear rather than completed. I'm trying to figure out here. Remember sail complete. It must be remember. Remember sail completed your... This can't be completed. Remember to sail back your people again? It's not, none of this feels right. Okay, it's fine. If we get it wrong, we get it wrong. You do you? Well, you are more optimistic than me. So the point I was making about the contexts is that you can write these contexts with the understanding that they have multiple pieces that work together. We can write as many contexts as we want and have emotional content that bridges across from a different context. In fact, we have to. That's the only way to make it a story. And to do that, we have to be able to sync our contexts up. But here's the thing. We don't have to be super cool about it. The context engine has a basic understanding of what contexts you've done and how far you've gotten along them, if you put a context point at the emotional heartbeat of where those two contexts cross, the engine can just be responsible for counting how many beats there remain between the how many beats there are along each of them before they hit that emotional heart. And you can just have the game engine focus on one or the other based on which one has more beats left and therefore needs more execution, more players.
Sailing through Eagle's Pass, I thought I saw a gigantic ship, as large as a moon, moving down the river like a shadow. Of course, I was ahead of it, and by the time I looped around, it was gone.
Now, the problem with that is how freely contexts can advance. If the contexts can only advance because you go to a specific location, then it's much, much harder for the game to, just artificially inject more context progress. The player can't be lured into making progress, inherently, unless they are driven to that specific location. That's a lot more work. So then the question is, if you're going to make contexts that have a requirement that you go somewhere to advance the context, you have to actually block off that part of the context system, that part of the context in the system, to make sure that the engine understands it needs to do a lot of stuff in that block. That isn't just one beat. That is the player actually going to that location and focusing on it, instead of something like, you can just advance a little bit here, a little bit there, find a new piece of treasure, take a new piece of dialogue. Those things are easy, and those can be advanced as fast or as slow as the engine thinks they should be. It's when there's a specific kind of progress that's required. That is a much more complicated setup. We've been talking a little bit about what the river might have been. This isn't a bad way to set it up, but I think it would have been better if we'd found pictures and tried to interpret the pictures, or something that had some voice to it. Just random pop-up text while you're surfing along is good for reminders and for making the player feel like wherever they're going is worth going, but it's not real great for drumming up a lot more curiosity. Anyway, I'll bring you back once we've landed. I'll see you next episode.